All right, welcome to NeuroHackademy. Welcome, everybody, and good morning. My name is Ariel, Rokem, and I'll tell you a little bit about NeuroHackademy this first session, and then we'll start diving into all kinds of hacking things. Why did we start NeuroHackademy? Why are we doing this? Just broadly, we have a lot of data in neuroscience these days, in neuroimaging. I call it brain observatories. The analogy is these space observatories. Astronomers for years have been producing very large data sets of the sky, of the night sky. And they typically do that by having a big instrument somewhere on top of a mountain in a place that doesn't have many clouds and doesn't have a lot of light pollution. And they point their telescope to the sky and they produce tons and tons of data. And then they make that data available to many, many people, many researchers to do research on. And that didn't used to be how we do research in neuroscience. We used to go into the lab and collect our own little data set. And we still do that. But nowadays, we also have things that are like these observatories. Maybe one of the sort of paragon examples of this is the Human Connectome project that's completed collection from a very large number of people of super high quality data. That is very, very useful, and just made that immediately available to everyone in the research community to analyze. But there are other kinds of projects that are very similar on various topics, like ChemCon on aging, this project developing Human Connectome, collecting from neonates, this project, the Child Mind Institute Healthy Brain Network, that's collecting data from children and adolescents, also in the thousands. ABCD that many of you have probably heard about, collecting also in the thousands children and adolescents longitudinally, cross-sectionally, and UK Biobank that's making just a tremendous amount of human neuroimaging data available. And so this is really exciting. Using these large and complex data, we can do lots of things that we couldn't do before. Large sample sizes that are available in these data sets provide more confidence in the results. And these are samples that better represent the population in some cases. And we can ask a lot of interesting questions about interactions between all kinds of complex factors that affect the brain and the way that the brain affects people's fate. And we can use all kinds of new approaches to do research, data-driven approaches that look at the data and explore it in a variety of different methods. And this is particularly interesting in a time where these methods, data-driven approaches, are proliferating across many research fields, including astronomy that I mentioned before, and even in industry and a lot of different applications of these kinds of methods. But it's also hard, as many of you know. It's computationally demanding. A lot of data is a lot of data. It takes up lots of space, and it takes a long time to compute with it. And keeping track of things becomes really hard because you have a lot of things to keep track of. And the interpretations can get complicated. What do we make of a data-driven result? How do we know that it's the truth? And that is compounded with the fact that in many programs for neuroscience, those methods are not necessarily always taught as part of the standard curriculum. And so here we are in neuroimaging and data science. This week, we're going to talk about a lot of these topics: machine learning and statistics, data visualization, high performance and cloud-based computing, open source software, and reproducibility, and how to share data and code, and how to do collaborative research in an era where we really need research to be collaborative. That's going to be a lot of the topics that we're going to talk about, and many more as well throughout this. And this really is are the reasons that we started this event. In addition to thinking a little bit about how the ethical framing of the research that we do changes when we do research on very large parts of the population, very large samples, how it affects the people that are in the sample, but also how it affects people outside the sample that are similar in all kinds of ways to the people that are in the sample. We'll talk about all those things throughout these couple of coming next 2 weeks. So that was just a blitz, really, of giving you an idea of, well, what are we thinking about here? And the rest of this next 25 minutes that I'll talk here will be a lot of technical things to introduce all the things that we'll do and how we will do them. NeuroHackademy is made out of 2 weeks, and they're sort of different from each other. The first week will be a lot about learning about these methods that I just told you about programming, about keeping track of things and visualizing data and statistics and machine learning and all of these different things. And then in week 2, we will shift gears and become a lot more active in applying these ideas in a hackathon. And I'll explain that in just a minute, how that's going to go down. Let's talk first about week 1. This is the schedule for week 1. Here we are on Monday, and every day we're going to have several lectures. And the lectures are they're written out here, and you can see them on the schedule on the website. I'll point to the website in a few minutes. We've scheduled coffee breaks at 10, and in the afternoon as well, we'll have coffee. And we've scheduled a particularly long lunch break in the middle, and that's so that you have time to absorb everything and also time to interact with each other and take a little break. And there are many places here where you will see more than one thing happening at the same time. And that's by design. We understand that people who attend this event come from different backgrounds. And so what we're planning to do in those places where there are more than one thing on the schedule is to point out and say that, for example, for the introduction Python tomorrow morning, there is in parallel another session on data management in pandas in Python. And the introduction to Python is a more introductory thing. So if you've never programmed in Python, you might want to go to the introduction to Python, which Noah will be teaching in this room and in this Zoom room as well. And I'll talk about Zoom in a second, about how you find things in Zoom. And then if you have programmed in Python before and you want to learn something a little bit more advanced, that's the other session. And the same is true for every morning, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. There's sort of a more introductory track, and then another track that will go between different topics related to Python, but at a slightly more advanced level. And then the same is true for Git. Tomorrow afternoon, there's Git from scratch, which really means I've never used Git, or I've looked at it and it really confuses me. And then there's collaboration patterns with Git, which is I've used Git, I use it a little bit, and now I want to learn more about how I can collaborate with others with this. So there's a little bit of parallel tracks here. In some cases, you'll have to choose what you want to do. Like Thursday afternoon, there's cloud computing and there's deep learning. Those happen in parallel, and you have to choose which one of these you'd like to attend. And then, so this is the schedule. I'll like to point out also there will be review sessions on Friday, and that's Noah and I, who will be teaching most of the hands-on tutorials here. We'll do review sessions of the things that we taught, and so you can go and pick and choose and go and ask questions during those review sessions late on Friday. Okay, other than that, there are many topics that will be covered in various lectures. Most of the lectures where there's a single track are going to be in this room and in this Zoom session as well. So wherever there's just a single track, that's where you go. Let me go and talk about week 2, and then I'll give a little bit more guidance about these kind of logistical issues about where do I go, how do I find the lectures, and so on. Week 2 will be really shifting gears, and you'll see the schedule is a lot more sparse and has a lot more of this one kind of event, which is hacking. And that's because the goal of week 2 is to have you all much more active and coming up with ideas for how you'd like to apply the things that we'll talk about in week 1 to a variety of data sets. I should say week 2, the next to last event in week 2, you'll see there are several people where there is a data showcase where we'll tell you about several data sets and guide you to how to find data sets that you can use in hacking in week 2. And so week 2 will start with a hackathon pitch session. In this session, you will, any one of you who wants to pitch an idea will come up here or come on Zoom and describe the idea for what they'd like to do over the course of week 2, what they'd like to pursue during all those hacking sessions. And then you'll kind of collect together into groups and start working on those things. You don't have to wait until week 2 to start thinking about that. Week 1 is a really good time, and I'll show you at least one way in which you can start brainstorming about the things that you'd like to do in week 2. And then in addition, week 2, we've scheduled the Careers in Data Science and Neuroimaging panel with several speakers with various backgrounds who will talk about various ways in which neuroimaging and data science have played a role in their careers, and take your questions about that. And we also scheduled in the afternoon time for what we call breakout sessions. These are sessions for you that could be initiated by you or initiated. You can ask some of the speakers who will still be around or will be arriving in week 2 to hold the breakout session to discuss certain things. They will also, I know some of them are also planning to propose certain activities to do during those breakout sessions. Those are meant to be sessions that if you're interested in the particular topic, or if you have a topic that you'd like to discuss, you can kind of drop in and participate in, or continue hacking during that time if you're really into what you're hacking on at the same time. So that's week 2, and then we'll have presentations of your projects on Friday, and then we'll take our farewells, and we'll talk more about the farewells in detail later on. I thought I'd put up this picture. It's also on the website of just the instructors that are going to be teaching. I won't call each one by name out, but it's an amazing group of people that are coming here and in Zoom to talk about things that they really are world experts on. And we're very, very lucky to have these people, some of them participating year after year in this event to teach you about the things that they know so much about. And we're really, really grateful for their hard work on this. This is the organizer team. That's me over there on the left. Noah Benson, who's sitting here in front, and you'll meet in just a few minutes, up here as well, is the co-organizer together with me. And Molly D'Alessandro is also part of the organizing team. And you've probably communicated already through Slack with both Noah and Molly. I thought I'd put their picture up. We also have a team of, I guess we'll call them TAs for this event. 2 of them are remotely logging in to help out with things. Pierre Herholtz and
we cannot hear you in the online at least.
Ariel, the sound is gone for us. I don't think he can hear us.
Yep. Can you hear me now? Oh, low battery. That's very helpful.
There we go. Yes, now we can. And
okay,
we heard until you introduced Pear.
Yeah, the battery on the microphone is running out, which is a good time for that. Oh. All right, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Sorry about that. That was time for fresh batteries for this remote thing. Okay, I was talking about TAs. Okay, and then we have 2 in-person TAs, Mackenzie Hagan, who you may have met this morning, people over here in the room in the welcome table, and John Kruper, who will mostly be here next week and not this week. We're both here to help with various things related to the course, help you. And the idea is that you they will help in the sessions themselves, but also that you can reach out and ask questions, and they'll be responding on Slack in various ways. And we'll try to see how that works. As you've already noticed, we're in a hybrid format here, and bear with us. This is the first time that we're doing this. We hope that we get this to work. All the lectures will take place both here in a room in Seattle, but also on Zoom at the same time. And we will be recording all of these sessions, and we'll make the recordings available as soon as possible for those people who are logging in different time zones and want to see things later. but also, of course, anyone who wants to watch something again can then watch that again. And we're going to make these recordings publicly available so anyone can watch them, which is, we think, is a nice thing. And we also have this idea in our mind that we've never done a hybrid event. I don't know if anyone here has participated in a hybrid event where there are participants remotely logging in and other people in a room somewhere all together. And we don't, so this is a little bit of an experiment, and we have all kinds of ideas about how we might make this work better for everyone. We should state up front, we don't imagine that the experience will be exactly the same for the people who are here with me in the room and the people who are seeing me through a camera somewhere else. But we hope that this will be a really good, productive event for everyone, regardless of where you are and how you're experiencing this. But we do have also this idea that we will try to facilitate interaction between these two groups of people who are online on Zoom and people who are here in the room in Seattle. And we have several rooms here in this conference center now, speaking to the people who are in the room. Here in this conference center, we have several rooms who are then connected to several rooms on Zoom that different people can log into. And we'll try to facilitate that. For example, during the hackathon, it's not, our goal is not necessarily that there will be groups of people here and then groups of people in various Zoom rooms. We think it's entirely possible that there would be groups with people sitting in a room together here in this conference center, together with other people who are on Zoom. And one of the things that we've done in order to facilitate that is to acquire a few of these cameras that are intended for meetings. I'm pointing at a camera right now that I'm speaking to. And the people who are here will see those cameras spread out throughout here. And the people on Zoom, you will experience this because we think that these cameras facilitate this kind of interaction better than sitting in front of a laptop and rotating that laptop around in order for everybody to be able to talk to everyone. So we'll see how that works out, and you'll help us figure this out. So this I just described, these rooms within this Alder space that are connected via Zoom and laptops to these OWL cameras. If you are here in Alder, the one thing that you need to know is that there's a password on these laptops that are connected to these Zooms, to these OWLs, and the password is always eSci, like the first few letters in eScience, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then there's a link on the desktop that will connect you immediately to a Zoom room, and that's the Zoom room designated to that laptop. So we have several Zoom rooms. And if you are remote, you can connect to the Zoom rooms through this link. So it's the same link that we use for the Jupyter Hub that I'll talk about in a second, but in the end /Zoom. So that looks, let me see if that will just take me. No, I'll need to end the show. That will look like, yeah, like this. Looks just like this, and it's just a simple set of links. And I won't click on the link because it will finish this Zoom and go into some other Zoom. But if you click on these, you see there are several rooms here named 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and those are the rooms into which you will be entering, and that people who are here physically can connect to. And then Alder Auditorium is a link to this room where I am right now and where a lot of the lectures will take place. But some of the lectures, and if you go to the schedule on the website, you'll see that some of the lectures take place in a room called Alder 103. For those here, that's the room right there next to the entrance to this conference center. And for you on Zoom, that's that link right there that says Alder 103. So some of the sessions that take place in Alder 103 also take place in the same Zoom room that's linked from here. Okay, so that's how we're going to be hybrid, I guess, I hope. This is an important reminder for those of you who are on Zoom that if you have not filled in your media release form yet, please do that. We have a form online for you to fill out, and that's important because we will be making these recordings available publicly, and your face will be on them. And if your face is on them, then we need your permission to do that. Okay, this will be less interesting to people on Zoom and more interesting maybe to the people here in the room. COVID is still a thing. We're really happy that we can have some of you with us here, some of us with us on Zoom, but we'd really still want to avoid spreading COVID here because that would mean everyone is on Zoom in a few days and some of us will be sick and not feeling so well. So please wear a mask. The speakers standing up here will not wear a mask because that's really uncomfortable to talk a lot with the mask on, and also because you won't hear us. But apart from that, if you could wear a mask, that'd be great. If you find that you have symptoms of COVID or you test positive, please stay in your dorm room and then connect to Zoom, like the people who are on Zoom right now. We've given you all lots of tests. We hope that you can test on a daily basis. Not hope, we've made it possible for you to test on a daily basis. Those of you who've been to conferences this summer know that a lot of people caught COVID at conferences, and we'd really like to not have that happen here. If you do test positive and or have symptoms and are staying in your dorm, just let us know, because there's a certain protocol for how you get food, for example, when you're in a dorm room and stuff of that sort. I said, please test yourself daily, and we will do so as well. And we have tests for you. Yes, please don't come here with symptoms or having tested positive. In terms of physical contact, we know that physical contact is not a huge mode of transmission for COVID, but still just assume that people don't want to be touched. Let's just go with that. Coffee breaks and meals are intentionally long. That's also so folks who are on Zoom don't need to sit in front of Zoom all day long, because it's really exhausting. And also because the sessions are pretty demanding and you'll be tired, all of you. But also so that you can take your meal at Local Point, which is across the street here, and you can go outside. There's a courtyard. If you cross this big room here and go out these doors and go up the stairs, there's a big courtyard outside here. And there are other places around here. You'll find little corners that you like to sit and eat outside. Not a bad idea to avoid being indoors. Okay, that was my little COVID precautions section here. Let me go on with other things, and then I'll open this up for questions. But let's talk a little bit about the infrastructure that we have set up for the event. We have Slack, of course. You've already seen Slack and experienced Slack. The general channel is for general questions, discussions that you think pertain to everyone. If you have a question and you'd like to ask us the question, please consider the fact that many other people might have that question. So instead of messaging us directly, consider putting it on general, unless it really pertains to something specific to you, in which case, definitely feel free to message me or Noah or Molly or all of us together about something that pertains specifically to you. If you haven't yet, go and introduce yourself in the introductions channel on Slack. There's a lot of people have already introduced yourselves, and it's great to learn about who you are, and we'll have another opportunity very soon to get to know you more. And there is one channel for each lecture and tutorial. This is by design. That channel has the link to the Zoom room that's associated with that lecture at the very top, but it's also a place where you can start asking questions while the lecture is still going on, and a place where you can have discussions after the lecture is completed. And we'll ask all the people giving lectures to go in there and log it and kind of get into those channels and be willing to engage in discussion. And from past experience, that is always a really great thing, because you think about it and then the next day you have a question for somebody from a lecture from yesterday, and the question and answer period is over, but you can still go and engage with people and continue the discussion. And then feel free to add channels. You can add channels yourself on Slack. Feel free to add channels for topics that you're interested in, and for your projects on week 2 and so on. We have a Jupyter Hub. What is a Jupyter Hub? We have a hub online. This is a website that is serving up something called Jupyter. Jupyter is a format for computational documents. What are computational documents? These are little programs that have both the code that we run, but also some text that describes what the code does, and they embed figures inside of them. And one way to run Jupyter is on your laptop, on your computer. But another way is to run it on some machine somewhere else, and then give you access to that machine. And that's exactly what we've done with this Jupyter Hub. It's available at neurohackademy.2i2c.cloud. And when you go to that website, it'll ask for your permission to use your GitHub credentials, and that's because the way that we make sure that you are you and you're part of this group is by using your GitHub username that we've asked you to give us. And GitHub will then make sure that you are who you claim to be and let you into this hub. And we'll show you in the sessions tomorrow morning how to run that. In the meanwhile, you can go in there and play around with things. Let me show you what that looks like real quick. So it's really the same website that I showed you before that has a /zoom in the end. If I don't have the /zoom, let me go to, if I just do neuroacademy.2i2c.cloud, then it should do something like this for a little bit, and then it should do something like that for a little bit, and then here you are, and this is the hub, and we'll go in detail into kind of the functionality that this provides at the first session tomorrow morning when we'll really start using this hub. But just to give you a sense, there's one particular folder on in your home directory here that's important, which is the curriculum for this. And in here, there are directories, one for each session. For example, for the icebreaker that will take place in a few minutes, there's one here, and you'll need to actually go in here soon to do this and click on this Bingo Sheets notebook. And this is a Jupyter notebook. I'll actually restart the kernel and clear the outputs. And here you'll see that there's some code that's been inserted here, and you can execute that code by clicking Shift and Return, and that does something. It gets some Python code and runs some Python code, and then it produces one of these bingo sheets that we will be using for the icebreaker in a few minutes. Okay, we'll come back to this when we start the icebreaker. Let me just make sure that I cover everything that I wanted to cover during this introduction. Okay, yeah, and we'll use all kinds of other tools for collaboration. We'll introduce these tools gradually over the course of this week, and you'll use all of those next week. I wanted to just spend a minute here because I said, hey, next week we're going to do a hackathon, and maybe this is the first time you've even heard about a hackathon, or let alone the first time you're participating. There's a long tradition of hacking. Some of you might be thinking about this kind of hacking. This is kind of a long tradition of hacking at MIT, where people do all kinds of mischievous things like putting fire trucks on top of buildings, and they call that hacking. But we're thinking about something maybe slightly less mischievous and less difficult to pull off. More about something like focused and playful exploration of ideas. So think things of the sort of a data analysis. You're going to try to analyze some data. You'll hear about some data. You'll hear about some tools. You'll want to put those together, or implement some software that does something in particular. Not that. Don't put fire trucks on tops of roofs. But write an epic poem about something. Really, it can be anything as long as it's playful and creative, and well, maybe involves the kinds of things that you'll learn about in week one, because that's what you're here for and interested. But really consider exploring something that's different from what you do on a day-to-day basis in the lab. If you work on diffusion MRI like I do, maybe do some fMRI analysis for a change. If you work with MRI data, maybe consider working with electrophysiology data for a change. If just think outside the box. This is an opportunity to work with other people that you don't know, get to know them, and also learn something that you don't usually think about in your day-to-day. So as I mentioned, we'll start with a hackathon pitch session followed by team formations, and we hope that there will be some kind of hybrid online in-person mixture. You can check out projects from previous years that you can find on our website for ideas about what this can look like. And you don't have to wait until week 2. We already have a channel on Slack called Hackstorming, which is really for brainstorming ideas starting right now if you want. I will say collaboration is not optional. Be proactive in forming collaborations with other people. Ask lots of questions. If you're with other people who you're just meeting and they know something different than you, try to figure out what they know and try something new. Find your birds of a feather, people who are interested in similar things to you. And importantly, hackathon is can be pretty intense. We have a pretty long hackathon. 5 days is a long time. Take a break if you need to. Walk away from other people. walk down to the water, which is not a long walk down here, and look at some water or something natural, some birds. But definitely collaborate with other people. This is the opportunity. I'll mention something in brackets here, which is not on my slides, but is important to mention, I think, in this context. This kind of format where you're hacking with other people is the kind of forum in which people feel a lot of imposter syndrome. And some of you might be hearing all this and already starting to feel like, oh, maybe I'm not supposed to be here. Maybe this is not the right room for me. I don't know all these things. This is the first time that I hear about all these topics and ideas. And I recognize that some of you might be feeling that, and maybe all of you, and maybe most of you. And that is a very natural response to this kind of thing. As I mentioned, different people here know different things and come from different backgrounds, and we understand that. And that's by design. We want you all to be here. You are in the right room. And just acknowledging that you might be feeling, oh, okay, this is above my head a little bit, is not the wrong kind of response to this. It's the right kind of response. It means that you're being challenged and you're learning new things. And I hope that you really all will learn new things, regardless of where you're starting here. We're really trying to make that possible through the design of this event. Let us know if we can help in any way. Okay, also in week 2, I talked about breakout sessions. We do have something that I forgot to mention, which are lightning talks. We have a session for lightning talks for you all and everyone to give talks. I will give you later on a way to sign up to give lightning talks. It can be about anything at all. It can be about your research. It could be about something you're interested in. And we have these breakout sessions that I described before. One last thing, to mention is the code of conduct that I will provide the link to through Slack. The code of conduct for the NeuroHackademy describes the ways that we expect that people will behave in all the forums and formats of this, including online, including when you're not in this room, but in other rooms or in the dorms or outside. It boils down to being respectful to others, being careful with others' feelings, and with others having respect to who other people are. The code of conduct itself describes in a lot of detail what we mean by those terms, but it's pretty straightforward. We just want you to think about the language that you use and about the behaviors that you engage in, and not use language that is demeaning, sexist, and otherwise exclusionary through a variety of categories that are all in the code of conduct. And that you treat each other generally with respect. That seems pretty straightforward, but really is described in a lot of detail in the code of conduct that I will provide a link to. One thing that we have in the code of conduct is that we have what we call a code of conduct response team. And that means that we want some of you to take some responsibility to be available to people who feel that the code of conduct has been violated in some way, and be another channel. Of course, you should contact me and Noah and Molly if the code of conduct has been violated in any way and you want some action to be taken. The code of conduct document includes all the kinds of actions that we will take if the code of conduct has been violated. So let us know. But if you feel uncomfortable, we would like there to be other people amongst you to whom you can go. And so what I'd like to ask now is for folks to volunteer to be on this code of conduct response team. You can message me directly if you're interested in doing that, and I'll let everyone know who those people are tomorrow after folks have had an opportunity to think about that and join that. So that's the code of conduct, and that's the end of my slides, and also the end of roughly the end of the time that we had for this introduction. But let me, before we move on to the next thing here, let me see what questions you have about all that. That was a fire hose, I realize, and do put a lot of questions in Slack now about all the things, and I'll try to circle back to all the questions that you have. But let's see if you have questions that an answer now. There's something that was unclear, not sure about. We'll try to guide you through here. Yes.
What is the tipping point on the more introductory versus the more intermediate lectures? So I know you mentioned if you coded in Python before, what if you coded in Python before, but it was 2 or 3 years ago?
Okay.
So you were writing
Yeah, that's a really good question. It's like, how do I decide there? You told me there are these two parallel tracks. How do I decide which one I should go to? I would err on the side of caution, so to speak. And then if it starts and you're getting bored after 10 minutes, switch to the other one. We won't feel bad if you pick up and you're like, this is not for me, I'm going to go to the other thing, or you log off Zoom and log into the other Zoom. That's fine. Does that sound like a reasonable? Yes. For the poster, oh yeah, I forgot to mention the poster session. Yeah, there will be a poster session tomorrow, and several of you have said that you will have posters to present, both online and in person here. And I don't think everyone is in that category, but quite a few of you. Let's see, raise your hands here in person if you're presenting a poster. All right, there's a good number of posters. We have this poster session as another way for you to get to know each other and to learn about the science that different people here in the room are doing, because you are doing a lot of cool things. And you got to introduce yourself in a little paragraph on that Slack channel. But we think it's really fun also to go and talk to people about the science that they're doing. And so we'll have this little poster session, both on Gather online. And so folks who are here in the room can join that poster session. It's a little harder for folks on Zoom to join the one that we'll have here in the hall out here. Yes. Yes, that's a great idea. So what was suggested here is that people have printed posters and would also like to put it in the poster session online. Folks who are presenting online and folks who are here who are able to do this, we'll need to convert that into a smallish JPEG or PNG, as in 3 megabytes or less in PNG or JPEG format, and send it to me via Slack, via email, and I'll upload that into Gather, and then we'll all gather there tomorrow. That's at 5 tomorrow, 5 p.m. Pacific time. I should say all times that are in the schedule are Pacific time, US Pacific time, and talk about science. And then you can use the different rooms here in order to go into Gather and join those folks. And we'll gather here outside. There are poster boards. We'll set those up and have a little poster session tomorrow evening. Thanks for asking that and reminding me of that. All right. So, okay, the next thing we'd like to do is we'd like to give you an opportunity to get to know each other a little bit more, and in an informal way. And Noah will describe how that will happen.
And you'll hear me online?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Right, so those of you who are in person, you should have received a piece of paper that it has your NeuroHackademy bingo sheet on it. For those of you who are online, you should be able to go to the Jupyter Hub, just like Ariel did, and go to the NH 2022 curriculum directory, and then go to the icebreaker, open up that bingo notebook, and evaluate that one cell, and that will generate a icebreaker sheet for those of you who are online. For you who are online, there are rooms listed, and you should ignore those. We've had a little bit of technical trouble with some of the rooms here, so instead, if you go to the Zoom listing of Zoom rooms, there's Alder Auditorium, Alder 103, and then rooms 1 through 6. What you're going to pay attention to, you're basically going to be going to all of those rooms except for room 1, which is not currently open. For all of you who are in person, you're going to be going to the various rooms in person, and you're going to be meeting up with the people who are online using the owls. So the way the icebreaker is going to work is we're going to start, and everyone's going to pick a random room to go to. For those of you who are here, I'm going to just real quick point to you where all the rooms are, and then when we leave, I'll kind of walk and point them out. But basically, Alder 103 is right over here. There's this room right here. You can gather around this owl. This is Alder Auditorium. There's a room over here just behind the Alder Auditorium, which you can actually get to through the little hallway over here. And then there are 2 rooms in this same direction, just a little further down. And then in addition, there's one owl set up in the main lobby here on the other side of the room. And those correspond to the Alder Auditorium, Alder 103, and then rooms 2 through 6, for those of you who are online. If you see rooms labeled Z1 and Z2, you should ignore those as well, for those of you who are online. Okay, so basically this is a bingo sheet. You're looking for people who are part of the program who match the descriptions on the bingo sheets. So for example, there are one of the squares might have a white background, which means that you need to find someone who is an online participant to fill in that bingo sheet. You're going to have to find them by talking to them through the owls or through the Zoom interface. The square might say something like, find someone who has a cat in their background. That means you need to find an online participant who's got a cat in their background somewhere. And you can put their name in that sheet. And you're trying to get 6 in a row or 6 diagonal, like normal bingo, except with 6 instead of 5. Any questions about that? Yeah. Yes, you can put one person in multiple spots. That's totally fine. Also, the one thing I forgot to mention is that when we start, we're all going to scatter to random rooms. You get to pick which room you go to. Try to go to a room that doesn't have too many people in it. And every 10 minutes, we're going to blow an air horn, and we're going to put something in the general on Slack, and everyone switches rooms at that point. Hopefully, you can all hear us. Yeah, go ahead. Take your what? No, you can leave your stuff here. It's fine. There'll be someone here, and also people will gather around this owl as well. So you can leave your stuff here. Okay. I realize there are probably some things arriving on Slack that might be questions, but I can't see them right now. So I'll jump on as soon as we start and answer those. Any other questions before we start for in-person people? Or if you have a question online, you can just say it out loud. Okay. If you did not get a bingo sheet, I think Molly has some up here. So you can grab one. And yeah, if you have any other questions, I'll stay here for a minute. Oh yeah, go ahead. Yeah, you shouldn't put your own name in any of the squares. Good question. Okay, if we don't have any more questions, then everyone begin. Go find a room. Remember, over here, over here, over here. And I will take everyone around real quick to show where they are.
Ariel, we